reading service. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. We are a United Way partner agency. Today is Monday, April 30th, and your radio host is Wanda. I will be reading from the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. Need to know. Citizens Academy. The next Fayetteville Citizens Academy will be May 11th in the City Hall, Council Chamber, 433 Hay Street. Class begins at 8:30 a.m. and features the Finance, Budget, Strategic Planning, Human Relations, and Economic and Community Development departments. Applicants must be city residents. The class is limited to 25 participants. The session will end by 4 p.m. To apply, go to fayetteville.nc.gov/Citizens Academy, fill out the application and email it to Nathan Walls at nwalls@ci.fay.nc.us. The application deadline is Friday. Participants will interact with department directors and staff and engage in hands-on learning activities that familiarize them with the functions of the departments. Lunch will be provided. Cumberland Community Foundation grants. Cumberland Community Foundation has opened its spring 2018 grant cycle. Funding is available to 501c3 nonprofit organizations that have their primary offices in Cumberland County and provide services to county residents. Applications are received online and the deadline to apply is May 7th at noon. Instructions and applications are available on the Foundation's website, cumberlandcf.org, in the For Nonprofit / Grants and Timelines section. Grants are available for organizations whose programs are focused on healthcare and seniors. Screen on the Green and Food Truck Rodeo. The movie series sponsored by the Spring Lake Recreation and Parks Department kicks off June 8th with Black Panther. All movies are free and open to the public. The series continues one Friday a month at Mendoza Park from 6 to 10 p.m. Bring lawn chairs and a blanket. There will be food trucks on site. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar@fayobserver.com or fax details to 486-3545. For questions, call 486-3500. Public safety. The following are arrests in Cumberland County. Tias Dominique Trammell, 20, of the 300 block of Scarborough Street is charged with larceny by employee. Her bail was set at $2,500. Nigel Savant Thomas, 23, of the 2900 block of Birmingham Drive is charged with obtaining property by false pretense and conspiracy. Bail was set at $5,000. Crystal Marie Beniquez, 32, of the 3400 block of Boone Trail is charged with 2 counts of financial card fraud, 2 counts of obtaining property by false pretenses, and 1 count of financial card theft. Bail was set at $1,500. Christopher James Brooks, 29, of the 2700 block of Heater Avenue, Spring Lake, is charged with common law robbery and possession of stolen property. Bail was set at $15,000. Rosella Denise Sherlock, 42, of the 1000 block of MacArthur Road is charged with accessory after the fact to felony assault. Bail was set at $1,000. Azavius Lamar Hughes, 26, of the 2200 block of Greensboro Street is charged with assault by strangulation. He was held without bail. Break-ins, Pettigrew Drive, 5800 block, reported at 5:27 p.m. Friday. Home broken into, guns, ammunition, televisions, video games, console, safe, $6,000, ninja sword, nunchaku, comic books, and other property stolen. Bahama Loop 300 block reported at 4:40 p.m. Friday. Home broken into. List of stolen property not yet available. Livewire. First question. Who is responsible for compiling questions on Family Feud? It seems lately they have gotten pretty nasty. I like watching the show, but not the direction it has taken. I want to know who is writing these questions. This comes from LG in Fayetteville. The answer? We have to assume the producers and the writers come up with the questions for the show, which premiered in 1976 and has been hosted by Steve Harvey since 2010. Apparently, you are not the only one who has noticed a change in the tone of the questions in recent years. An October 2015 New York Daily News story quoted viewers of the show complaining about questions that seemed designed to elicit risque answers. In the story, Dan Gaynor of the Media Research Center said that the racy comments are a result of sexual content becoming more acceptable on television. But of course, question and answer game shows as far back as 1960 and 70s, the favorite newlywed game, were known for occasionally throwing out suggestive questions. Livewire seeks to answer questions of general interest and consumer topics. Initials are used to identify questioners when names are given. Contact Livewire at livewire@fayobserver.com or at 486-3516. For summer vacationers, RV sharing is revving up. John Flynn and his family won't check into a hotel on their next vacation. Instead, they'll roll into their destination in a Fleetwood Jamboree, a 31-foot recreational vehicle that sleeps 6. And it's not just any RV. Flynn won't own this motorhome, and neither will a traditional rental company. They'll share through a site called MyWay.com, a peer-to-peer service that brokers rentals between RV owners and travelers. My wife and I love RVs, says Flynn, who lives in Moraga, California, and works for a food service company. Excuse me. We're considering buying an RV. The problem with owning one includes storage, depreciation, maintenance, and insurance. It's a lot cheaper and more convenient to rent when we need one. Until now, if you wanted to hit the open road behind the wheel of an RV, buying was your best and sometimes your only option. But now there are new ways to get into an RV. The question is, does an RV make sense? Does an RV share make sense for you? RVs are not for the faint of wallet. The average motorhome costs $127,514. According to the RV Industry Association, a trade group. The actual cost of ownership is higher once you factor in fuel, insurance, maintenance, and campground fees. Unless you're recently retired and living in a motorhome full-time, ownership might be a little pricey. RVIA, which is the RV Industry Association, conducted multiple studies that found the cost of an RV vacation is comparable to that of a traditional getaway. Taking a vacation in an RV in a rental RV cost about the same as fly, drive, hotel vacations, said RVIA spokesman Kevin Broom. Sure, you can lower the cost. Grant Sinclair, a high school teacher who blogs about traveling in his RV on his site, wanderfieldlife.com, has spent the past 2 summers in a modest 27-foot travel trailer. He estimates that he and his wife have saved about 30% compared with traditional accommodations, spending an average of $40 to $45 per night on their accommodations once they factor in fuel and fees. The Sinclairs also save money on food. Since our camper comes with a fridge, we buy and cook our meals, he says. Still, unless you want to rough it, you probably won't save money by switching to an RV on your next vacation, especially if you have to buy one. Traditional rentals are notoriously expensive, says Lee Wetzel, the co-founder of Pendium.com, a rating service for campgrounds. Fried Oreos and the scat. Maurice and Ashley Medley were giving the fresh roasted ears of corn a workout while standing in the shade along the Festival Park promenade. The Medleys were among tens of thousands of people who attended Saturday's second day of the 3-day Spring Dogwood Festival, one of downtown's Fayetteville premier events. "It's not too hot. It's not too cold," said Ashley Medley Thursday. Medley 30. "It's a perfect temperature for the Dogwood Festival." This marked Ashley and Maurice Medley's first visit together to the annual festival. Maurice Medley, 37, recalled coming as a little kid with his mother and grandmother. "I like that it puts a positive light on our city," he said as the crowd passed by in waves. "It shows the culture that brings us together. It shows how beautiful Fayetteville really is." The Dogwood Festival always has a little something for everybody, including music, dance, and other entertainment, children's activities, arts and crafts, and vendors serving a diversity of food selection from the lines of booths stretching along the streets. Carrie King, executive director of the festival for the 13th year, reported that Friday night's hip-hop concert knocked it out with a crowd of 30,000 to 35,000. "Last night was flawless, absolutely flawless," she said from the driver's seat of a golf cart temporarily parked behind the festival stage. Overall, the festival is expected to draw the normal 200 to 300,000 people, King said. "Oh my gosh." Thrilled is how she described the proceedings as of midday Saturday. She said not one problem had occurred during the festival, which has been marred by fights and rain in recent past. "We deliver a big party to our community," King said. "This event stimulates our global economy. 75% of the money spent is spent with local people." This year's festival boasts 160 vendors, roughly 200 counting the sponsors. About 25 are food related, King said. Bobby Hoopingarner of Hoops Fun Food is back for the second year from Spartanburg, South Carolina. His business is home to the thick grilled bologna sandwich. "It's one of our biggest sellers," he said. "The beef bologna is grilled on a flat top grill before the circle of meat is seasoned and then dressed with lettuce, tomato, mayo, and grilled onions. It's amazing, people tell me, like it's one of the best bologna sandwiches we've had," Hoopingarner said with a grin. Festival goers can choose from such eclectic festival fare and outlets as shrimp on a stick, the Bamboo Cookhouse, fried Oreos, funnel queens, Loco Pops, a London broil steak sandwich, barbecue ribs, lemon love, and Bayou Billy Sweet Dixie tea. That particular sweet tea can be purchased in a souvenir tin cup for $8. $1 refills for the rest of your life, the mobile business promotes. This marked Bayou Billy's booth owner Lisa Agner's 4th year as a vendor at the festival. "Business has been very good," she said. "That's why we're back." The sounds. Abner Clark was the first act to perform Saturday afternoon as the festival park stage gave way to more country-oriented musicians. "I know it's early. We're going to have a good time," Clark told his sparse audience early on. The Chris Cox Band and headliner Rodney Atkins were booked to play later in the day. Excuse me. 36-year-old Sheena Craver had found a perfect spot on the lawn. She was sipping a cold beer as Clark and his 4-piece band delivered a hard-charging set. "I like to come out and listen to the band," she said, noting that her husband, Chris, was chasing their 2-year-old, McKinley. Mama Craver sat by his stroller as the music played on. "I come mostly for the music," she said, "but I like taking the street fair." Sunday's entertainment concludes with Zozo, the ultimate Led Zeppelin experience. And since real Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant said he has no interest in doing another reunion tour, this may be as close to that band of heavy metal thunder as you're likely to get. Besides, the tribute band has been covering Led Zeppelin since 1995. The amusement and the rides. Scat, Screamer, Spinner. Those are only 3 of the attractions offering amusement ride thrills on this year's Midway. Because of construction to the downtown baseball stadium, the Midway had to be relocated from its traditional site behind the AIT building and Prince Charles. The city did a good job of helping us identify a new location, said King, the executive director. The Midway is not as large as it has been in the past, but that didn't stop a crowd from checking out all of the neon lit sights and sounds. I wish I was a little kid so I could have a lot of fun, one young man blurted out to what appeared to be his parents. Rayhan Nabi, 13, looked to be having a blast after his world turned upside down. He and his friend Zion Bacon were a spirited bunch as they exited the Screamer, a ride that turns riders upside down in its swinging arc. It's not really scary. I was on my head, Rayhan said. You get to interact with people. You talk with people while you're screaming. There are some really good photos associated with this article, and there's one where Patricia Marrero of Airborne Aerials performs tricks in front of the market house at the Dogwood Festival, and it's there are the poles, and she's kind of dangling from the pole with ropes. So she's swinging in the air. Looks like fun. Then there are pictures of Louis Avila and Julie Kesley. They're getting their portraits done by artist Robert Hume. So there's looks like a couple sitting there, a male and a female, and then there is a little girl sitting next to her mother, and theirs is also being done. And the artist is actually doing a very good job. He did a very good job on these portraits from the pictures that we see here. Luke Vanderbilt holds a mic while Cameron Stevens plays a cello. Oh, from the LS Music Performing Studio on Hay Street. Then the final picture is two little girls, well, 2 girls in a ride, in a carnival ride. It says kids react as they take a spin on the carnival ride. One has her eyes squinted closed like she's terrified, and the other one is looking at her with a grin. Elizabeth City State offers drone courses. Elizabeth City Professor Kuldeep Rawat entered the Elizabeth City State University lab, where every table had a drone. There was a spider-like black edition with rotors for legs, a streamlined fixed wingsuit that looked like it was from Star Wars, and a simple craft made by students with the electronics exposed. Each had a purpose in the rapidly expanding field of unmanned aircraft, from bridge inspection to farm field management to storm damage surveys, said Rawat, director of the ECSU Aviation Science Program. We can train our students in all these areas, he said. We want our graduates to be entrepreneurs. ECSU began offering drone courses last fall as part of its 4-year aviation degree. Students get prepared to take the Federal Aviation Administration certification exam, Rawat said. In 2019, the college plans to offer what would be the state's only 4-year degree in unmanned aircraft systems. ECSU already offers the only 4-year aviation degree in North Carolina. The 16 students in the unmanned aircraft classes learn to fly drones, interact with air traffic control, and use different payloads and sensors such as cameras. They get training in interpreting weather and when and where to safely operate their aircraft. Junior Weston Smith is enrolled under a Coast Guard scholarship program in which he will earn a degree in aviation in 2020 with a concentration on unmanned aircraft systems. Drones fit with his interest in several fields. I can have a foot in all of this, Smith said. The university's plan to build an outdoor flying facility with a net, sort of like a giant batting cage. Students can fly some drones costing well over $25,000 each in a safe area, yet still deal with outdoor conditions like staying airborne in strong winds. Drone pilots are a hot commodity according to an FAA aerospace forecast. The industry could need more than 300,000 new pilots in the next 5 years, the report said. In 2016, FAA reported 42,000 commercial or government drones. The number grew to beyond 110,000 by the end of 2017, and the FFA predicts growth to a high exceeding 700,000 by 2022. Nearly half of commercial drones are used in real estate photography, about a quarter for utility inspections, and 17% for agricultural applications, the FAA report said. Government agencies are increasingly using drones for search and rescue and storm damage surveys. Data is the new oil, said Aaron Beacom, the unmanned aircraft lab technician at ECSU and a former Navy drone pilot. Ray Watt is enthusiastic when he describes what these hand-launched remote control aircraft weighing less than 55 pounds can do. A drone can fly over a farm field with an infrared camera and spot specific problems in the precise areas within thousands of acres. It maps and stores information. Then the data can be transferred via thumb drive from the drone to the tractor, Ray Watt said. Now you're telling the tractor where to go and spray, he said. Drones can haul tanks of insecticide and spray within inches of the crop at precise areas. He lifted an aircraft that can carry a camera with the ability to rotate in a full circle. That, he said, is ideal for inspecting wind turbines. It can fly among the tall towers and their blades, hover closely with special cameras spot even the tiniest of cracks, Rowell said. The same goes for bridges. Some mounted cameras can map in 3D, which is valuable along the coastline for measuring beach erosion. Drones can be fitted with cameras that differentiate between millions of items following a disaster, such as a tornado or flood, and help locate survivors. The lab is just the beginning, Ray Watt said. Fayetteville VA to host whole health workshops. The Fayetteville VA Center has planned a series of workshops to introduce veterans, soon-to-be veterans, and Department of Veteran Affairs employees to its whole health initiative. The 2-hour workshop will be held Monday, May 30th and June 20th at the Family Readiness Group Center on Fort Bragg. Each will start at 3 p.m. The center is at 236 Interceptor Road near Pope Field. The Whole Health Initiative is part of a shift from treating disease to focusing on individual patients, officials said. It is also known as personalized, proactive, or patient-driven care. Whole health goes beyond your illness, injuries, or disabilities. It focuses on your values and aspirations, your health and well-being, and includes self-care and complementary therapies such as acupuncture, massage, and yoga, along with your conventional medical care, said Dr. Sita Kanithi, a clinical psychologist at Fayetteville VA. The workshops also will explore the challenges facing those leaving the military and explain how the whole health approach is helpful in meeting those challenges. Most importantly, you will learn about your own strengths and abilities to optimize your well-being with a focus on what is important to you. For more information or to register, contact Kanithi at 488-2120, extension 7396. To learn more about the Whole Health Initiative, go to va.gov/patient-centered-care/about-whole-health.asp. Military Editor Drew Brooks can be reached at dbrooks@fayeobserver.com or 486-3567. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600. Our toll-free number is 1-844-709-5656. Your radio host is Wanda, and I am proud to serve you today. Collectibles. Flag identifies families with military service members. A reader asked, what country uses a little flag with just a red border and a big blue star in the center? It is a service flag designed in 1917 that identified a family that had someone in service during the war. It was entered into the congressional record in September 1917, and it can only be used according to strict guidelines. The idea expanded to a gold star flag for a family that lost a son or daughter during any United States war, including World War II, the Gulf War, and the Vietnam War. The flag size must be in the ratio of 10 to 19 like the United States flag, and it must be smaller and flown below, never above, the stars and stripes. In 2010, the Silver Star honoring those wounded in the wars was approved by the House of Representatives. The gold and blue star mothers, wives, and families have special clubs, lapel buttons, ribbons, and meetings. In 1936, the last Sunday in September was declared Gold Star Mother's Day. There are new flags flying in windows now, and the old ones are being saved and collected as interesting war memorabilia. Current prices. Current prices are recorded from antiques, shows, flea markets, sales, and auctions throughout the United States. Prices vary in different locations because of local economic conditions. Vase applied yellow flowers, ruffled trim, pink to white, Stevens & Williams, 9.5 by 4.5 inches, $60. Jewelry box, coffin shape, walnut, high relief game birds, leaves, poker work ground, 8.25 by 14 inches, $375. Wooden panel, storyboard, fishing, poi farming, domestic life, fruit tree, waterfall, Hawaii, 14 by 19 inches, $1,560. Asian porcelain, vase, hexagonal, enameled flowers, branches, ox blood over cream, 17.75 inches by 9 inches, $2,040. Steuben vase, water, scene, geese in flight, trees, plum jade, acid cut, flanked by handles, 13 inches, $2,500. Art glass perfume bottle, 4 colors, diagonal stripes, Latticino, purple, green, blue, white, and it has a date on it of 1875, 5.5 inches, is $3,125. George III, chest on chest, 7 drawers, mahogany, bracket, feet, 75.25 by 44 and 75 3/4 by 44 1/4 inches, $3,250. Handel lamp, pine tree, dome shape, yellow acid etched art glass, 6 pounds, bronze tree trunk, 22 by 15 inches, $3,300. Doll, automation, Catalan dancer, rocky landscape, Gautier bisque head, paper mache body, 8 by 37.5 inches, $5,322. Cloisonne vase, fish, flowers, wireless enamel, dark blue to purple, Aichi Hayashi Saku, 10 by 6 inches, $8,750. So look around. You may have some of this stuff just sitting right around you and not know that it's actually so valuable. Homicide victim has been in trouble with law. Fayetteville police are continuing to search for whoever killed DeMarco J. McCahan and wounded his grandmother in a drive-by shooting early Thursday. DeMarco McCahan, 20, and 70-year-old Carolyn McCahan were shot shortly after midnight on St. Louis Street off Bunts Road in western Fayetteville. Carolyn McCahan is recovering, police say. The police department has a $1,000 Crime Stopper award for tips that lead to an arrest. There is no major threat to the general public. Homicide detectives are investigating to determine the circumstances surrounding the homicide and shooting, as well as to identify the offenders, Sergeant Sean Streppe, a police spokesman, said Saturday. Nearly 18 months ago, the police department asked the public to call Crime Stoppers to help investigators find and arrest DeMarco McCahan and a young woman. The two were accused of break-ins, conspiracy, and other crimes, according to wanted posters police published on Facebook. The two were captured 10 days after police asked for help in finding them. McCahan completed his prison time in December and was put on parole. State Department of Public Safety records show McCahan had been in and out of trouble with the law at least since he was 16. Many medically discharged vets missing out on rating upgrade. Hardeep Gruel was a 29-year-old Air Force computer operations specialist suffering a mild case of pneumonia when he deployed to Saudi Arabia and a series of other Southwest Asian countries in 2003. The staff sergeant stayed ill and returned to the United States looking like a scarecrow, he said. He was diagnosed with asthma, which would require 2 medications daily for the rest of his life. By December 2004, Gruel was medically discharged with a 10% disability rating and a small severance payment. The Air Force Physical Evaluation Board lowballed me, he said. They were trying to get rid of people from a specialty that, after offering an attractive reenlistment bonus, quickly became overmanned. Gruel promptly applied to the Department of Veteran Affairs for disability compensation, and his initial VA rating was set at 30%. Full VA payments were delayed until Gruel's Air Force severance was recouped. 12 years later, in August of 2016, he got a letter inviting him to have his military disability rating reviewed by a special board Congress created solely to determine whether veterans like him discharged for conditions rated 20% disabling or less from September 11, 2001 to December 31, 2009 were treated fairly. I waited like almost 2 months to apply because I didn't know if somebody was pulling my leg, Gruel said. I talked to a lot of people, including a friend at Langley Air Force Base, to find out if it was legit. Gruel had to wait 18 months, but he received his decision letter from the Physical Disability Board of Review this month. It recommends to the Air Force Secretary that Gruel's discharge with severance pay be recharacterized to permanent disability retirement, effective the date of his prior medical separation. If, as expected, the Air Force approves a revised disability rating to 30% back to December 2004, Gruel will receive retroactive disability retirement, become eligible for TRICARE health insurance, and begin to enjoy other privileges of retiree status. Congress ordered the Board of Review be established as part of the 2008 National Defense Authorization Act after a mountain of evidence surfaced that service branches had been lowballing disability ratings given to thousands of service members medically separated over a 9-year period through recent wars. It began accepting applications in January of 2009. So far, 19,000 veterans have applied from a pool of 71,000 known to be eligible for at least a disability rating review. All of them were medically discharged with disability ratings of 20% or less sometime during the qualifying period. A bump in rating to 30% or higher bestows retiree status, including a tax-free disability retirement and TRICARE eligibility, and yet only 27% of veterans believe eligible for a rating review have applied. Indeed, applications to the Board of Review have slowed to 40 to 50 per month. For this column, Greg Johnson, director of the Board of Review, provided written responses to questions on the board's operations. Overall, he said, 42% of applicants receive a recommendation that their original rating be upgraded. Their service branch has the final say on whether a recommendation is approved, but in almost every instance they have been. To date, 47% of Army veterans who applied got a recommendation for upgrade, and 18% saw their rating increase to at least 30% to qualify for disability retirement. For the Navy Department, which includes sailors and Marines, 34% of applicants received upgrade recommendation and 17% gained retiree status. For Air Force applicants, the approval rate also has been 34%, but 21% of the airmen got a revised rating high enough to qualify for disability retirement. The wait on average is 8 to 12 months, Johnson said. To learn more, go to health.mil/PDBR. Land deal will preserve site linked to lost colony mystery. Efforts to unravel the mysterious fate of the North Carolina's most fabled lost colony could benefit after a preservation group took out its first loan to buy a coastal tract where some colonists may have resettled hundreds of years ago. The 16th century English colonists who vanished after being left in the New World have piqued popular imagination and intrigued historians for centuries. One North Carolina community is held a lost colony festival this weekend. The preservation of land linked to their disappearance could enable future researchers to shed new light on the prehistoric riddle. The 1,000-acre property is so special historically and ecologically that the North Carolina Coastal Land Trust decided to take a risk and borrow $5.3 million for a real estate deal, said Lee Leedy, attorney and Northeast Region Director for the trust. It's the first time in 26 years that the trust has done so. The trust plans to turn the property over to the state, eventually preserving it for future study. It was a veritable time capsule of important historical events, Leedy said. According to being the place where historians now believe some of the colonists resettled, the land in rural Bertie County has been home to an Indian village and to the plantation of Governor Thomas Pollock, who served 2 stints as governor in the early 1700s. The land, which includes 3.5 miles along Solomon Creek, is important ecologically, with food plain forests of cypress, gum, swamp, and bottomland hardwood forest. The military also uses the area as a central training route and supported the preservation, Leedy said. The nonprofit trust, which has preserved almost 70,000 undeveloped acres since 1992, purchased the land last year and plans to pay off the loans with money from grants. While there is no specific timetable for turning the property over to the state, an official from the North Carolina Divisions of Parks and Recreation will visit the site May 14th, Leedy said. England's ill-fated first settlement in North America was established in 1587 when 116 English settlers landed on Roanoke Island in what is now North Carolina, led by explorer John White. He left them there when he sailed back to England that same year for more supplies. When he returned in 1590, delayed by war, England and Spain, none of the colonists remained. White knew the majority had planned to move 50 miles into Maine, as he wrote, referring to the mainland. The only clues he found about the fate of the other 24 were the word Croatoan carved into the post and CRO lettered on a tree trunk, leading historians to suspect they moved south to live with American Indians on what is now Hatteras land. Archaeologists now believe that some found their way to land in Bertie County. The possibility first came to light in 2012 when researchers at the British Museum of London announced they had found a drawing of a fort that had been obscured under a patch on a map of Virginia and North Carolina drawn by White in the 1580s. The drawing placed the fort in the area of Bertie County, where archaeologists have found colonial era English pottery and signs of a Native American village. While the area is best known for its probable lost colony connection, it has more pottery shards from the Indian village of Matacum than from the Europeans, said Nick Lucchetti, co-vice president of the First Colony Foundation, the group spearheading the archaeological dig on a parcel known as Site X. The Native Americans are a hugely important part of the story, said Phil Evans, president of the foundation. We tend to take a Eurocentric view, but the site can tell a whole century of North Carolina history from 1584 to the Tuscarora Wars of the 1700s. It's a century of North Carolina history that's often forgotten because there are no standing structures for people to see. Lucchetti and Evans believe perhaps up to 12 members of the lost colony settled on Site X, possibly as a watch party for incoming friendly or enemy ships. The remains of other settlements or a single large one could be located nearby in areas where they haven't dug, they said. Meanwhile, the small town of Winster, population of about 27,000, is hosting its third Lost Colony Festival on Saturday. The town's tourism director, Billy Smithwick, envisions a Lost Colony Visitor Center there after the state takes over the property, along with other attractions to attract visitors. It's a little gift from heaven, he said. Bobby Kennedy's final journey. The assassination of Robert F. Kennedy occurred 50 years ago this June, fractured the nation just 2 months after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and 5 years after his brother John F. Kennedy was killed. But RFK's funeral, particularly the train that took his body from New York City following a funeral mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Washington, D.C., brought the country together. An estimated 2 million ordinary Americans gathered beside the railroad track to honor him as the train passed by. An exhibit at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, The Train, RFK's Last Journey, displays 21 of the 1,000 unique color slides made by photographer Paul Fusco on June 8, 1968. The images captured America's grief in a way that was unusual in photography, by seeing the events through the eyes of ordinary people. The photos show Americans of all colors and classes: Catholic schoolgirls, field hands, firefighters, blue-collar workers, and housewives in their bonnets. Creates a tableau of those who came to say farewell to the man many knew as simply Bobby. Some climbed fence posts to get a better view. Some saluted. Others stood rock ribbed straight. Some waved American flags or handmade posters, "So long, Bobby." Others turned from work to see what was happening as the maroon train car holding his coffin rolled by en route to Washington, and from there to his final resting place at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Fusco, at the time a staffer for Look magazine, made the images from his unique position aboard the funeral train. He said he was astonished when the train emerged from a New York City tunnel to see hundreds of people gathering beside the tracks. At times, he used a panning motion to isolate certain people and certain scenes, creating a blur around the edges of the images. The exhibit also shows the importance of the day for those who were, through a collection of personal images sought out by Dutch artist Rein Gel Terpstra, who became fascinated with Fusco's photos and launched a research project in 2014 to collect pictures and films from the observers who watched the funeral procession go by. Among the most striking is a carefully labeled page from a photo album collage decorated with red, white, and blue construction paper. The moving exhibit also included a 70mm film reconstruction of the day by French artist Philippe Panerno, complete with the haunting sound of a train clacking through fields and cities. So many people came to say goodbye to Bobby Kennedy on June 8, 1968, that the train slowed and the journey took nearly twice as long, nearly 8 hours to travel a typically 4-hour route. The RFK train, funeral train, echoed a similar journey more than 100 years earlier when Abraham Lincoln's body was transported by train from Washington to his home in Illinois in 1865, with scheduled stops along the way where crowds of people turned out to pay their respects. The trip took nearly 2 weeks. Kennedy, a U.S. Senator from New York, was running for president and had just won the California primary when he was shot at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles by Sirhan Sirhan. Kennedy died June 6, 1968. The train, RFK's Last Journey, is on display at the museum through June 10th. This article contains some very nice pictures as well, and the first one is an untitled photograph. This is the caption. An untitled photograph by Paul Fusco is part of the exhibit, the RFK's Last Journey, and it shows 2 African American women, and it looks like on the other side is African American man, but 2 of them are holding a sign, a large sign that says "So Long Bobby." It's a black and white sign. And then another of the pictures shows people lined along. It's like just like a parade, a line of people alongside the tracks that it says mourners line the tracks in this caption. And then another one shows young African American males. One even looks to be around the age of maybe 8, 10, and then one that looks a little bit older. But it says this 1968 photo shows Annie Ingram's of Elkton, Maryland, the People's Views, that just shows the different races, and standing next to them is a Caucasian little boy. So there were all, as the article says, there were people of all races that were mourning together during that processional. And let's see if we have time for anything else. Okay, this is about this new movie that came out last week. Infinity Wars opens with a record $250 million. A whole lot of superheroes added up to a whole lot of ticket sales. The superhero smorgasbord Avengers Infinity Wars opened with predictable shock and all earnings of $250 million in box office over the weekend, and edging past Star Wars The Force Awakens to set the highest opening weekend of all time. Infinity Wars, which brings together some 24 superheroes in the 10-year culmination of Marvel Studios' cinematic universe, also set a new global opening record with $630 million, even though it's yet to open in China, the world's second largest movie market. It opens there May 11th. According to the Walt Disney Company estimate Sunday, Infinity War overwhelmed the previous global best, the Fast and the Furious, with 541.9 million, but narrowly topped The Force Awakens in North America. The Star Wars reboot debuted with 248 million in 2015, which would translate into about $260 million accounting the inflation. But both intergalactic behemoths belong to Disney, which now owns 9 of the top 10 opening weekends ever, 6 belonging to Marvel releases. That includes Black Panther, which has grossed 1.3 billion since opening in February and still managed to rank 5th at this weekend's box office, thanks to partially Marvel fans self-programming a double feature. The track record for Marvel, along with the hyper-extravagant effort put into the long-planned Infinity War, made the record-setting weekend something of a fait accompli. After 10 years, 18 prior films, and some 15 billion in the box office, the weekend was an assured and long-awaited coronation for Kevin Feige's Marvel, the most dominant force in a Hollywood with precious few sure things. By any measure, the 2-hour and 40-minute long Infinity War is one of the largest films ever assembled, with a production budget of almost 300 million. Joe and Anthony Russo's film brings together the stars of Marvel superheroes stable, including Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, Chris Hemsworth Thor, Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, Chris Evans Captain America, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, and many more. It was shot over 18 months, back to back, with a sequel due out next summer. This concludes the reading of the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. Your radio host has been Wanda. Coming up next, a broadcast of the Harnett County News, the Rayford News Journal, and the Robesonian. I've enjoyed being with you this evening. Thank you for tuning me in, and have a wonderful day.